Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, where I've dragged myself away from cheering on Johnny in Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid revamp, to share conversations about the latest developments in the world of technology and learn how it's actually going to impact our lives over the next few years, and it will actually be much sooner than many of us realise. For example, when we think about the world of autonomous vehicles, we have to get stuck in the noisy world of Uber versus Lyft or the latest round of new and improved self-driving cars from Mr. Musk or even somebody else. But the inconvenient truth is that there is a much, much larger conversation to be had about the value of an open, on-demand mobility ecosystem that actually supports this sustainable, inclusive, prosperous and resilient smart cities that are on the way. So today I want to introduce a company to everybody listening that is leading this conversation, and that company is called Bestmile. They have a unique perspective that the economic, social and environmental benefits of autonomous vehicles can only be realised when vehicles are integrated in a coherent and coordinated urban mobility system along with existing transportation modes and city infrastructure. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Now, Bestmile is currently helping its customers and partners such as Lenovo and the EU's Avenue project, and they're helping them solve that first mile, last mile problem and manage fleet of human-driven and autonomous vehicles together. It's a fantastic story. I'm probably guilty of revealing too much already, so let's dive straight in. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Switzerland so we can speak with Bestmile CEO Raphael Gindrat, who's going to take a deep dive into the technology and next generation mobility. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Raphael, co-founder and CEO of Bestmile. Bestmile, we are a Swiss startup. We started this company 4 years ago, and our goal is to build and provide a cloud platform designed to connect, manage, and optimize fleets of autonomous vehicles. So we are working with vehicles that have no driver, autonomous vehicles, but we are not developing any technology that goes inside the vehicle. Vehicles and all the technology inside is done by other companies. And for sure at Bestmile, our goal is to build partnerships and relationships with these kind of guys. But at Bestmile, we are building all the ecosystem you need on top of the vehicle as soon as you want to operate a fleet. So the goal is not to sell that to you and me. Our goal is to provide this technology to transportation companies, like transit companies, taxi companies, TNCs, and etc. And we are providing them all the ecosystem running and optimizing a fleet. And so at the end of the day, our technology is taking all the decisions that cannot be taken by the vehicle alone, like dispatching the right vehicle to the right customer at the right time, routing the vehicle, if vehicles are electric, managing energy and charging strategies, if you have some unexpected traffic on the street, recomputing the best route for the entire fleet. And on top of that, we have quite a lot of interfaces and smartphone applications that are on one side developed for our customers, which are again transportation companies, but we can also provide interfaces and smartphone applications for the traveler. And so we have a smartphone app which is pretty similar to the one provided by Uber, so allowing a traveler to book a ride and to see when the vehicle is going to pick you up. And so we started to do that 4 years ago. We are now something like 60 people in the company worldwide, most of them still based in Europe, but we have also a pretty big sales team and marketing team in the United States, as well as a few people in Asia.
It really is incredibly cool what you guys are doing, because it seems that essentially Bestmile is empowering mobility providers to deploy, manage and optimise autonomous and conventional driven vehicle fleets, regardless of the vehicle brand or type. But can you just tell everyone listening a little bit more about what problems you're setting out to solve for those transportation companies, and also what makes Bestmile a little bit different from all the other solutions out there?
Yes, I think a nice analogy to explain what we do is like an airport. If you look at an airport, you have companies like Boeing and Airbus doing planes as well as autopilot and all the technology you need inside the plane. And in let's say in the automotive industry, this is what tier one suppliers and car makers are doing. So all the car and the technology you need on top of inside the car. Sorry, but again, if you look at an airport, you have people like Boeing and Airbus doing planes, and you have a control tower. Planes are smart, but as soon as you need several planes using the same airport at the same time, you need some kind of collective intelligence managing the entire airport and the entire traffic. And this is what we do again at Bestmile. So our technology has nothing to do with the self-driving part. All the self-driving is done inside the vehicle. But at Bestmile, we are providing a collective intelligence on top of the fleet as soon as a transportation company wants to operate a mobility solution. So one of the challenges we have at Bestmile is to be the first one today compatible with autonomous vehicle. You have some similar platforms already available, but always fully designed for human-driven fleets. And when you manage human drivers, it's pretty easy because you just give a smartphone application to the human driver, and this smartphone application is allowing you to know the position of the vehicle, but it's also allowing you to send a task or a mission that the driver has to execute. When you are managing autonomous vehicle, you have to have a really deep technological integration between the software inside the vehicle, driving the vehicle, and the software outside the vehicle, managing the fleet. And this is why partnerships and relationships with people building and selling vehicles are really important for us, because we need this kind of partnership and technological integrations.
And when we often think about autonomous vehicles, I think we get stuck in the noisy world of Uber versus Waymo or the new self-improved driving cars. But I actually think there's a much, much larger conversation to be had about the value of an open, on-demand mobility ecosystem that supports sustainable, inclusive, prosperous and resilient cities. And one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast today was reading about your own perspective at Bestmile. I mean, can you expand on how the economic, social and environmental benefits of autonomous vehicles can only be realised when vehicles are integrated in a coherent and coordinated urban mobility system, along with an existing transportation mode and city infrastructure? Because that's all the things that we often miss and don't talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really important point. Like if you look at press articles, headline, you always see some big news like autonomous vehicles are going to cut traffic, are going to reduce accidents, and etc. And it's true, or at least partially true. For sure, autonomous vehicles are going to reduce accidents because they will have a lot of sensors and a lot of embedded technology allowing to drive in a let's say safer way. But if you want to have a lot of other benefits like reducing traffic, reducing air pollution, waiting time, and all these kind of things, it's never going to be done by self-driving vehicles alone. It's going to be a big mobility ecosystem connected to other types of mobility solution already deployed in a city, and it's going to be done only if the fleet is really managed efficiently. So if you look at a city like London, a lot of people are using the tube or metro to move every day, and it's just impossible for autonomous vehicles to replace this kind of existing transportation system, because by using that you can move so many people per hour at peak hour. So autonomous vehicles are useful. They are going to change a lot of things. They will make public transportation better, for sure. But it's going to be done only if they work together with existing transportation systems. Train, metro, existing bus, maybe bike sharing and car sharing. And this is a strong part of our vision at Bestmile. We are not providing a black box. So our system is by design done in a way that we can connect it to other transportation systems. And we have pretty nice existing projects. For example, in Switzerland, we are working with a big transportation company that is deploying a small fleet of autonomous vehicle in a city. And our system has to be connected to the system managing the train station, managing the bus, existing big bus in the city, as well as the system managing car sharing. And our goal is really to enable this kind of big multimodal solution, because this is only when you do that you will have a lot of benefits, more than just reducing the number of accidents. It's clearly important, and it's a big part of why autonomous vehicles are being developed. But all the other benefits are also really, really important. And again, it's never going to be done only by vehicles. It's going to be done by an ecosystem that is well managed and optimized. And this is why also making sure fleets are really well operated is important. For example, you don't want to have empty vehicles driving around in your city. You want to have, for sure, you will have a few vehicles where you have only one traveler inside, but you see a lot of benefits as soon as the fleet is electric and shared, meaning having several customers using the same vehicle at the same time. And so if you want to do that in an efficient way, you need also several types and several size of vehicles if you want to have this kind of big multimodal transportation system.
And just to take you back a few years for a moment, Bestmile was founded back in 2014 when you had the idea to create a control tower for autonomous vehicles while working on a project at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. So could I just take you back in time to tell me more about that, just so we can understand the history of your company and how much you've changed or evolved since then?
I think the goal was clear at the beginning, and we are still following the same goal. But it's true that we started in 2014 when the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology was part of a European project called City Mobile 2. And the goal of City Mobile 2 was to organize in a few cities in Europe some small-scale demonstration of autonomous vehicle. And so this university in Switzerland was selected by the European Commission, and the goal was to run a pilot project with 6 vehicles at the same time for something like 6 months. And so we understood quite quickly that a lot of people were focusing on the vehicle or the technology inside the vehicle, but no one at that time was really focusing on the platform you need on top of the vehicle when you want to operate the fleet. And so we just explained to the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology what we were thinking. We explained that we were ready to start a company to solve this kind of issue. And so we were selected by the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology to become a subcontractor of this European project. And for us, it was really a unique opportunity because we used this project to test and develop our own technology. And we were also in charge of running the fleet. So at that time, we were our own customer in one sense, because we were a small-scale transportation company that was in charge of this pilot project for 6 months on this campus. And since then, we started to deploy our technology with commercial customers. We have something like 10 to 12 fleets as of today, but the idea is still the idea we had 4 years ago.
Fantastic. And it really does seem that back then you were quite ahead of your time because nobody else was focusing on a system that allowed companies to operate a fleet and provide service with autonomous vehicles. Fast forward a few years, now Bestmile is enabling intelligent operation and the optimization of autonomous services regardless of the vehicle brand or type, like we said at the beginning of the show. I mean, can you tell listeners more about that? Because I think it's a fantastic story.
Yeah, so clearly we were a little bit early at that time, but we were lucky to be part of some European projects. We were also really happy to have some early customers starting to use our technology in 2015 and 16. And it was really important for us to be that early because we used all this time to do a lot of tests, to do a lot of prototyping, also just to learn how autonomous vehicles are really working and how you can connect this kind of vehicle to an external cloud platform like the one we are building at Bestmile. So I think it was clearly an advantage to be that early, but it was only possible because we had some people putting some trust on us already in 2014 and 15. So all the knowledge and experience we managed to add a few years ago is now really useful when we are deploying bigger fleets, more complex fleets, so more and more vehicles are deployed in an on-demand transportation mode. A few years ago, it was more like a fixed route, and vehicles were just doing back and forth. As of today, we are more in dynamic deployment, where vehicles have to be booked with a smartphone application, and all the dispatching and routing is done in real time according to demand. We are also now adapting our system to human-driven vehicles, so conventional taxi or conventional minibus. And it's something that is really important for Bestmile, because we want to help transportation companies to manage the transition between existing fleets and human-driven fleets. And this kind of transition is going to take maybe 5, 10, 20 years, depending on the country or city. And you need to have a platform designed to manage both type of vehicle if you want to help in this kind of transition. So at Bestmile, everything was developed for electric and autonomous vehicle. And we are now doing a small step back by also adapting the technology for human-driven fleets. But this kind of step back is pretty easy for us, as managing autonomous vehicles is much more complex in our opinion.
Now, at Bestmile, I think it's also important to highlight that you're helping your customers and partners such as Renault and the EU's Avenue project. And you're actually doing there is you seem to be helping the first mile, last mile problem that some people listening will know about and some won't. And that's about managing fleets of human-driven and automated vehicles. But can you just paint a little bit of a picture of that first mile, last mile problem and how you're actually helping your partners resolve that?
Yes, but just before I was explaining that autonomous vehicles are not going to solve all the issue alone. Like in a big city, you still have trams, bus, and other types of transportation system, and we don't want to replace them. But nevertheless, as of today, using public transportation, it's never a door-to-door solution. So depending from where to where you want to move in a city, maybe you have to walk like half a mile to arrive at the first bus station. You take the bus, the metro, and at the end of your trip, maybe you still need also to travel half a mile. And this is the first and last mile. So the distance you have at the beginning and at the end of the public transportation journey. And for some people, like old people, or if you have to move some packages with you, maybe if it's raining outside, this kind of distance can be a problem for some part of the population. And this is why some people are still using their own car inside big cities, because using your own car or a taxi is a door-to-door solution. So what transit agencies or transportation companies are trying to do is to have better solution for this first and last mile. And I think that autonomous vehicles are a really nice option for that, because you can have small vehicles dispatched and routes according to demand. Also, the cost of operation is going to be quite low because you don't have to pay any driver to run the vehicle. And by doing that, we will be able to have a transportation system that are a little bit more door-to-door compared to what we have today. It can also be done by human-driven fleets, for sure, but I think the cost per hour to operate a vehicle is quite high if you do not have a lot of people to move. And this is why, as of today in big cities, we are putting bus lines only in places where we are sure to have some kind of demand. In places where demand is too small, we don't put any bus because it's just too expensive. But again, autonomous vehicles are a good option to deploy new mobility solutions in places where existing public transportation system is not deployed yet.
Now, earlier this year, Bestmile closed its Series A funding round and was named as the World Economic Forum's Class of 2018 Technology Pioneers, which is an incredible achievement. You've got to be incredibly proud of that.
Yeah, it's a really nice step. It's only a step. At each step of scaling, you have new successes like this one, but you have also new challenges, and you have to go every time, I think, faster and faster. We are in a really fast-moving industry. Each month, you can see more news about a new OEM or a new tech company testing or deploying some kind of autonomous vehicle. a lot of big names are targeting large-scale commercial deployment around 2020-21. So at Bestmile, we really want to make sure that we will be in a really good position in 1 or 2 years when the market is going to explode. And we are able to do that only by investing a lot and early in our, let's say, story. And this is why it's really important to raise money, to have good investors, to have good partners supporting us, because we have to develop a really strong technology if we want to make sure that this kind of technology is going to be used by big OEMs, car makers, and tech companies in a few months. And it's also, as you can imagine, a really long process. You cannot convince a car maker in 2 meetings. Most of the time, it's a process that is taking like 6, 12, maybe 18 months. And this is why it's important to start early and to have some kind of visibility and credibility. And for example, the World Economic Forum Technology Pioneers is really important for us to have a worldwide visibility and also to have a better credibility in our industry.
And you guys also recently announced funding to fuel strategic growth in autonomous mobility. Now, I know that isn't the be-all and end-all, but can you tell me more about how that funding is going to actually help you expand on that vision that you've developed?
Yeah, so funding as of today, it's mostly used to hire more people. When we closed our first round of funding, we were more or less 30 in the company, and it was already like 9 months ago, more or less. As of today, we are around 60, so the company doubled size in the last few months. And it's really important, again, if you want to accelerate, if you want to keep your leading position in this kind of industry, it's also really important to make your product or technology better, and again, to convince big names. We are also using this funding, as I said, to adapt our solution for human-driven vehicles. It was not the case until a few months ago, but we are now doing this kind of small step back in order to make sure that we can help transportation companies to manage the transition between between existing fleets and autonomous vehicle fleets. And again, this kind of transition is going to be long. It's going to be a really important step. And you need to have a platform designed for both type of vehicle if you want to help transportation companies to manage that.
So what are your biggest opportunities and equally biggest challenges right now?
I think big opportunities. We have a lot of things in front of us. Existing customers deploying bigger fleets, more complex fleets, like more and more focused on on-demand transportation. We have a lot of ongoing negotiation with some of the biggest transportation company around the globe, willing to use us for some kind of strategic deployment in several countries. So we have a small amount of deals that might have a really big impact on our future. Challenges, I think it's just to make sure we can move fast enough, because again, it's an industry where a lot of people are focusing on the vehicle and the technology inside the vehicle. A lot of money was invested the last few years in this part of industry, and building all the cloud ecosystem you need on top of the vehicle to manage fleets is really the next step. And so we know that in the next few months, we will have more and more competition because people are starting to realize that this piece of technology is really strategic, which is a good news for us because at some point you also need competition in order to prove that you are solving an interesting problem. But we want to make sure that anyway we can keep this kind of leading position. So it's just a matter of speed, execution, and making sure we can deliver the right customer at the right time in order to lock a big part of the market.
So if we do have anyone listening that work for transportation companies and they're loving everything that they're hearing in our conversation today, can you just remind the listeners of where they can find you online and also contact a member of your team maybe if they've got any questions at all?
Yeah, I think the easiest solution is for sure our website, bestmile.com, but we are also attending a lot of events and conferences all around the globe, for sure focused on mobility and transportation. But you can contact me also on LinkedIn, by email, or any other possibility.
Well, there's so much I love about our conversation today. I mean, I love the huge success and deserved success that you're having, and of course being recognised by the World Economic Forum's class of 2018 technology pioneers. I mean, that's fantastic. But what really stands out is how you've remained remarkably grounded and humble throughout, and you're still focused on it's just another step and keep moving forward. And it's just a fantastic story, it really is. So thanks for coming on and sharing it with me today.
Thanks a lot.
My wife and I always have an almost weekly heated discussion about autonomous vehicles, because I firmly believe that 10 years from now, we'll be saying things like, what on earth were we thinking letting humans drive cars? And then there's this whole debate around human error, the mood of a driver. And a human driver could, of course, be drinking or taking drugs behind this, what is essentially a weapon. So this gets me thinking that for kids now being born, there's the possibility that they will never need a driver's licence. But my wife keeps me grounded and proceeds to tell me that I'm just a crazy tech dreamer that has lost in my own personal tech bubble. It will never actually work that way. But listening to Raphael's story at Bestmile, now combined with my chat with the guys at Waze recently, I'm convinced that it's no longer a case of if autonomous vehicles will rule the roads, but when. But also, of course, if I listen to Raphael's words more carefully, he's not saying it's going to be autonomous only. And the reality, of course, is that the two worlds are going to exist side by side. Now, I realise my words will anger petrol heads listening today, and thankfully, this show's not all about me talking into an echo chamber, preaching to the converted. I want you to take the information that has been discussed today by myself and Raphael, and I want to actively encourage each and every one of you listening all over the world to let me know your thoughts, your experiences, your predictions. And you can do all that by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweeting me at Neil C. Hughes, or if you go to my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, and go to podcasts, you'll find a nice little red button that you can push and record me an audio voicemail. So I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation as much as I have, and if you have, why not come and join me again tomorrow? So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.